So obviously, everyone seems to be on a high. We've heard from the players, and they tell us how fantastic the spirit is. But what we've also seen is 4 different types of wins. How
Yeah.
impressed have you been with everything that's happening?
Well, I think that I say, there's lots of ways you've got to win a football match, and whatever the tactics are you decide to win, that's what they have to be. There's no point in trying to think you can play one way all the time and have, I listen to a lot of younger managers talk about identity. You don't want an identity. What the players need is a clear idea of what you're doing or trying to do that day. Because if you have an identity, well, I know that you're going to pass the ball to him, so I know where my first pressing point is, and he passes it to him, so I know where my second pressing point is. So, on all of those things, you have to be able to do everything in this game. You've got to do a bit of everything, and that's what I try and get through to our lads, and I think that they're far better for it. And like you said, different wins, different games, different circumstances. So, sometimes it's about we're all trying to get the win. You obviously want to get the win, and you want to play well every week. That isn't always going to happen, but if you can keep winning or win when you haven't played well, that's an even better recipe.
And for you as well, is it as impressive to win 5-1 as it is to win in the 96th minute when you've ground out a win and you've got it at the end?
Yeah, sometimes them 1-0 wins, 1-0 wins and clean sheets. What they do is they win you promotions. Anyone can get a 5-1. It doesn't necessarily know you're going to win something, but them, the clean sheets, the 1-0 wins, they're like gold dust. Them.
It must be testament to the fitness of the players as well. We know you've got a small squad, but to be able to keep going till the end, it must be testament to the fitness.
Yeah, we train hard, but I think they're accustomed to it. I think that the boys that have been here longer know what it's like. We always train hard, and if I don't think we can train hard, then we don't train at all. So it's one or the other, and you've just got to try and get that happy balance between one and the other, and I pretty much I think we're at that. We've got a really, really great group of lads. They are fit, they are strong, they do go to the end, and hopefully that can continue for us.
Is that credit as well to the physios and the coaches that you've had quite a few games in this small run, but doesn't seem to be anyway any fatigue or tiredness as well?
Yeah, I've said many a times that I've got a good set of staff, and I appreciate everything they do for me, and the boys appreciate everything they do for them as well. So, like I've said before, down at the training ground here, it's a real team effort. It's not about any one individual, and we just work really hard as a collective.
And the substitutes have also made a big impact in these last 2 games. So, as well for them, there doesn't seem to be any frustration, not starting it. There's no hangover. They come on and they're still just as want to give as much.
I'm sure that they, when they don't come on or when they do come on, there's still a little bit in them that wants them to play because everybody wants to play. But until they make it 19 aside, that can't happen. But what you want is that competition for places, and you want, when someone's called upon, to be able to go in and hit the ground running. So the reason those boys have hit the ground running when they come on later in the game last week was because of the extra training they do. So when you're not in the starting lineup, you have to do a little bit more extra training, and they do that. And Chris Worley does a really good job of keeping on top of them, and so do the rest of the staff.
And it obviously shows you've got those options. You've got the 2 young lads up front there on loan, but you can rotate them. You've brought Killian Phillips in, so you can rotate that midfield and keep that fresh.
Yeah, well, I think imagine what it would be like as well if we'd have had Dan Udo and George Nurse available. So that's I think the testimony is to the rest of the players that we've carried on going without Dan and without George, who both played 50 odd games last year. So, I think that I think the lads have done incredibly well, and George and Dan are doing well as well. In the treatment room, they would be desperate to get out on the field at the moment with all the other lads. But that can't be. Just time time will beat us there. There's no chance of them doing that this season. But yeah, it's credit to everyone. But they're still very much involved. You know, they're in every day. You know, they're at every game. So they're very much involved, those two boys as well.
Yeah, you've just mentioned them. Are they hitting any milestones? Or is any update on them? Just how are they? Because we haven't heard from them for a while.
Not really. You know, they're Danudo is running on Ultra G now, and his body weight will start to become more. That's that supports their body weight, so they don't put the full impact through. So Dan's been doing that. George, I don't know whether it was this week that George was stepping up. If it's not this week, it's next week where he'll be doing something. So, you know, they're both doing very, very well. But you know, they won't do well enough where we'll see them this season. At best, sometime back into training if we can.
And you mentioned it's been a long week. Obviously, the transfer deadline was earlier this week. Obviously, 2 lads left. And just anything about them, and obviously Julian's moved on, and just for his time here as well.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, both the lads have moved on, and hope they go and do well at both their respective clubs. And yeah, I mean, I think it was going to be an inevitable thing. It was just timing with it, really. So, yeah.
And obviously Oxford now, looking to that on Saturday, a trip down there, and just your thoughts going into that one.
Early start. So, yeah, we'll be on our way down there on Saturday morning. And then just do our best, the same as we've done in every other week. We've started our preparation early part of the week with a few bits and bobs, gone on a bit more today, and finish off tomorrow. We're looking forward to the game.